Hello everybody, welcome to the artclasses.com channel. This is Xia Taptara speaking. This video is an iPad Procreate tutorial on how to draw a character art, the drawing and the sketching technique for what I use on the character using Procreate on iPad. Alright, let's get started. Alright, so I open up a Procreate with a blank canvas, and I'm just going to use the, I think that's some sort of a brush that I have. And I reduce the background to about gray, usually I do, so that I can get the accent on highlight if I wanted to add the highlight, just in case. And in this one, I am going to start making the shape using I think it's a nickel brush or something. I'm not sure what the name is. It's like a flat brush with a lot of texture. It came with Procreate default. So I'm creating a character that wearing some long jacket. So you have to, like a lot of time I'll design a character with the silhouette or the thumbnails first before I start adding detail. And sometimes I'll just draw the detail and adding those detail on the line. So it depends. But in this one, I just want to show you the technique of adding the value or creating the shape first. So if you sometimes you get intimidated or the canvas too blank, just sketch something in the back or creating some shape in the back that might help you get more ideas of what to add onto the blank canvas. So in this one, it's just going to be a figure putting her hand in the pockets, both sides. That's what my initial thoughts. And see, I'm resizing all this brush, and I used a big brush to get the shape down, right? So, and usually in Photoshop, I start off with a really small thumbnail, but in this one, I'm trying to get used to the program, and I just wanna it's just gonna be the sketch. I'm not gonna complete the whole thing in color, or I don't know yet. So now I'm drawing this sketch line, and I start to kind of like, well, maybe that's not going well. I'm just gonna sketch more. So I'm trying to add the design of the jacket, basically what shape is it in the design in terms of the shape of the jacket, how it will fold, what type of jacket it is, not the design inside the jacket. So the design is basically cover everything from the shape of the object, the fabric, the type of the stitch, and is it long, short, how long is the bottom would be, all that kind of stuff. It's really important. So it's going to be a big high collar winter jacket basically, and it is a very good idea always to use some type of reference for maybe your clothing design or your jacket. If it's a contemporary design, you might want to look at something in Pinterest that might interest you in jacket fashion or something, right? Or you want something in the different period of time, you can go medieval time clothing or costume, or you can go ancient Chinese or ancient Japanese or ancient Korean or Indian, and I mean India, like as in India or South American or something, because in the cultural differences, they have a different type of costume that they wear from the historical period, right? Or you can go back to the 70s to the 80s and you have those type of reference. Don't just try to get inspired first, like what would get you inspired the most in terms of image or something. And as you dig through, like if you're interested in the 1960 USA, then you dig through all those stuff and you're like, oh, okay, you're intriguing by this mafia costume or something, then you can dig through that on interest, and you might find something that's really interesting. You can create like a group of the character set, or a set of a character that will, as you do the study, you also will improve on your memories on what do you call that? I'm just getting stuck with the word, on your picture memory that is in the back of your head. I forgot that word. There's a word for it. In terms of using the reference, try to use them as much as you can, because you only gain from it. You increase your knowledge of that reference, because different type of different, say a different era, for example, you have the ancient Chinese, which have different period, and you gain your expertises of, say, medieval England, or Renaissance, or if you're Mesoamerica, or back in the day in Egypt or something, right? So you can only gain when you look for reference, and sometimes when you find one reference, it will lead you to another, and you find more and more, and you kind of like it. Just maybe you like 1950s mob kind of thing. Then you dig through the reference and you find a costume that you really like, or you find not the costume, but the fashion, or the dress, suit, hat, or the outfit of that era. I can't think of the word. It's weird. Then you might get inspired, and you might creating the whole set of a character that get inspired from that. So sometimes you don't know what to draw. Those will be, looking through a bunch of reference or something that you're interested in would be really important. So now I'm start drawing the line on top, which is, I start babbling off the topic, but it is in the topic basically. So and my Adobe Premiere just crashed. So I basically record this almost all the way to the end, and then all of a sudden it just crashed. And I was like, what? So I have to repeat all this again, and I lost my train of thought. The previous recording is probably better. Anyway, so now we come to the face. And usually my first line, or the first rough draft, would be very, very sketchy, as you see right now, because I want to see the overall picture as fast as I can without thinking too much. I just want the flow. All right, so it is really important to get the proportion right, proportion of the face or proportion of the body. So a lot of time, if doesn't matter how good your rendering is, your proportion should come before your rendering, because sometimes if your proportion is really off, then doesn't matter how good you can render, that might not be sufficient to bypass those errors that you make, or it will not make your image look good. It won't fix the problem of your proportion. So be careful with the proportion. Proportion and anatomy are different things, right? Anatomy are those muscle where it places. Proportion is like the size and how far each object are apart from each other, or how close, or where should they be places, or what location, things like that. So a lot of time, the face. Okay, let's. I kind of lost my train of thought. So on the face, usually I would trying to find the plane of the face and see which direction the character is looking, so you can find the front plane of the face. That's where I would look first, and then I would split the face in half. I usually use the nose as the middle point of the face, right? Because they're right in the middle, to kind of identify where or which direction she's facing. And then from that point, I would split the face in half. And when I split the face in half, it's make it easier for me to see which direction or what side of the face would be less and what size of the face would be more, since everything is in perspective, even though it's kind of slightly, but you have to take that into your consideration every time you draw. So because sometimes you can exaggerate the head, and the head could be really big, right, if you're in a cartoon. And when you split the face in half, the direction, now the eye line, or where the eye would be located on the face, it would be right about halfway from top and bottom of the head. And then, but then you can draw two lines because the eye have heights. So then the nose would be halfway in between the eye location and the bottom of the chin, usually. And then the lips would be halfway from the nose to the bottom of the chin, but it would be on the upper half. You can move it up and down, but you cannot make it lower than half, because those are the mandible area, or the mandible thickness of your head, mandible part. So, all right, now I kind of get the face, and usually my sketch line are pretty sketchy. I usually get them, I'm trying to get my thought or my thinking out really quick. So I try to get the proportion right first, and I'm trying to get the design out first before I try to check on the proportion. And after I get all those out, then I'll come in and see if the proportion is right, if the thickness or the width or the height of the design is correct, in terms of proportion, how the clothes are hang on the shoulder, and how the folding are folding on the elbow. So now I'm using the brush, I think it's the hairbrush, long hairbrush or something in there, and trying to create the hair to frame the face first, before I move on and trying to adding a more drawing detail on the rest of the body. So I'm trying to utilize more tool this time around and see what else is in there that I can use. And if you have seen my 10 tips on Procreate video, you see that I did some studies, pinching or whatever gesture thing, and setting it so it has the cursor showing here. I'm not sure if it does showing, but when I was drawing, it does showing. And sometimes I forgot to turn it on. But then I get rid of the hair for now. Maybe I didn't like the brush, but I will eventually add them in later. So I decided to go with the Untitled pencil again. Not sure how it's pronounced, but I forgot the spellings. Sorry if I said it wrong. If some of you could correct me down in the comment. And if you like the video, please click like on the video, so it would help me with the searching or something. And if you find it useful, then click like. And if you have any question or any suggestion, then post them down in the comment below, or you can just say hi or whatever you feel like, right? All right, so now I'm using a thicker line and a darker line on another layer to get a more solid design on the character before I start adding. I'm trying to fix her eyelash first, and trying to get I try to get to the right precision as much as I can. And sometimes I hit, sometimes I miss, a lot of times. And I should have drawn a guy, because then it would have been a lot more forgivable if I were to make him look slightly weird. Sometimes on female, it's a little harder to get them look all right or forgiven. So now you get the ears, you got, I think this face should be all right. And if you are interested in more digital painting, I have a basically the tutorial foundation of how to digital paint, but it is Photoshop. So, but I think you could apply it to Procreate. You can go to my website, theartclasses.com, or you can find it on Gumroad or QBrush. It's called Ultimate Digital Painting Tutorial for something, I forgot. the Ultimate Digital Painting tutorial. I forgot the name of it. It's like I can't speak English today. I'm sorry. Yeah, but the volume 1 and volume 2, the Ultimate Digital Painting, yeah, I'm kind of lost my mind because Procreate crashes twice, and I already recorded almost all the way to the end, so it's driving me a little crazy. Make me forget what I want to talk about. All right, so now I'm zooming out, and sometimes I have to constantly zooming out after I zoom in to check the proportion. And again, I want to emphasize that proportion is really important. So sometimes you get to tunnel vision, especially when you zoom in and you don't see the rest of the image, because it's different from traditional painting, because when you lean in to kind of paint or draw on your piece of paper or your canvas, then when you lean out, you see the whole image again. But that's always chances that you can make something a little too dark or too light, and when you look at the overall piece, it doesn't add up to the rest of the image. So partially it might be the value, or partially it might be the proportion, or partially might be misplacing something. So if you can make that mistake on the traditional stuff, and it is a lot easier to make those mistakes in the traditional media, because you can zoom in and you don't see the rest of the picture when you lean out. So just want to point that out. And speaking of using different brushes, always try out new tools. You might find something interesting. In the beginning, you might not know how to use them right, but as you use more, you can find it useful. You might find those texture more appealing than your first use, right? So always try to open up the toolbox, whatever it has in Procreate, try it out. Maybe if you're using it for the line, it might not be appropriate for that, but if you're using it for the bigger area, like the brush that are bigger, then it would be appropriate for that texture to apply to that area. So it depends. Each brush has slightly different characteristic, right? So some of them you might need the big one, and some of them are good at a small fine detail scale. So you have to know which or how to apply those to take advantage, the full advantage of the purpose that it was created for. All right, now I'm drawing a little arm, a long sleeve here, and with some of the wrinkle, and then I just click undo a bunch. I'm not sure if I click undo or do 2-finger taps. You can always do 2-finger taps on these things. And if you haven't seen, I made the video on 10 Procreate tips for doing the sketch or illustration or painting or something, right? So you can always go back and look at that video. And if you notice, I speak a lot of time, I'll add something which is not necessarily included in this topic of the tutorial, but I think whatever I talk about might be pretty useful when you try to adding something. You might think, oh yeah, he said that or something, right? That's why I try to apply like random thought as I see the drawing here, because a lot of time I'm doing this voiceover after I already done this, right? Because it's kind of hard to do things at the same time. And I did that before when I'm doing live stream, and as I draw and I talk, it seems like the thought only go with because I have to focus on the drawing rather than focusing on what I'm talking about. Then there are less to talk about. So I often talk less when I draw. And a lot of time drawing something from your imagination or designing something takes a lot of brain power, I guess. So you kind of run out of things to talk. And also the thick and thinness of the line are also very important, but I didn't really apply to this drawing here. Some of them I will probably apply in the end, and I will talk about it, but then I use like the custom zoomy brush, which so the thinness could like apply to well, some part of the drawing that would define or you want to demonstrate the thinness. The roundness would be the area of like maybe the cheeks or the bottom of the nose, or the roundness of the muscle, and those would be thick, and it's kind of taper in the end. So as protruding out, like say if you're doing a bicep, the whole thickness of the bicep would be kind of thicker, and it's kind of taper around the end as the line intersect into the body part, right? But that's not here. So I'm just gonna focus now. All right, so now I'm making a straight line. So you can drag and hold your Apple Pencil at the end for a little bit, and it will straighten the line. Then you can move it up or down as long as your pencil is still on the surface, right? As long as you lift it, you lost that. You can't move it around. So hold it for a little bit, and then you can move it up and down, change the angle a bit. Now I'm making another layer and trying to decide which brush, nickel, no, or something, right? So I'm going to use that brush and create a thicker line. I think that might be some, I'm not sure if it's a rental brush. You can't really see. I'm just going to creating the hair and the outline, that making it look slightly like traditional brush. But now I'm creating, this must be hairbrush or sumi brush, I'm not sure. So you can rewind it a little bit. And it kind of create, if you see the edge of it, it create that fine jackiness, or so that it kind of look like the hair when I'm creating the highlight part on top of her head right here. So what I'm looking for is like the edge of it in between the light and the dark, and it create that shininess of the hair. So that's why I'm looking or using this brush. And like I said, each brush has its own advantage. So I'm using this brush to kind of create those kind of old ink style looking. Now I'm trying to create the outline, just doing a really quick continuous. Some people like the continuous line, but for me, I prefer the line that could intersect when I'm doing this type of brush, right? So right now, and if the line is supposed to be long, continuous, then I'll create that line to be long and continuous. But if the line is supposed to like go in and overlap, as it kind of like the overlap line can show you which one is in the front and which one is in the back. Like what I'm creating right here, the clothing is in the front, and that tiny little rectangular shape is in front of the coat, and the coat is in front of the bag that she was hanging on the side of her hip, and the coat is in front of her sleeve, that holding of the sleeve of the arm that's holding the sword. And then the line that intersect from the arm that is putting the hand in the pocket, that's also initially the line would of her in the pocket, and her hand in front of that back of her jacket, right? So try to think about how to overlap those things that would make sense, so that your drawing would read better of which one's in the front, which one's in the back. The thicker one mostly a lot of time will be in the front. You can use the line width to communicate that, or you can use the certain, like the lostness of the line or the taper of the line to do those to communicate your illustration or drawing with the viewer. Also experiment with your own, and look at some of the drawing and observe it, and reverse engineer it and see how look at the artist that you like and see how it's done and try to mimic it or reverse engineer or try to think or do studies. And so you can see once you do the study a lot of time, you will have to kind of go through the thought process of the certain artist. Then you might be able to find out what's really in his head or why he does what he does and why certain stroke matters. So now I'm creating the cast shadow from that collar of her. She got like a big collar, and I'm gonna add some folding shadow. And some shadow might work, some shadow might not work out. I'm just trying all these brush and see how much advantage I could take from different brush. Basically, I'm experimenting and showing you this technique at the same time. And that brush, I don't think that shadow on her arms or her in the front would work. Not sure. Adding a little more rendering, and I'm gonna make her mini skirt kind of darker, not too dark, because if I make it too dark, then it might take away from the hair that I frame it on her face. And then I'm just gonna erase the part, the rent or the initial shading that I had for her skin on her, because regularly on the comic book or the manga usually have the background color for those face and legs. So I'm just gonna leave those out and just put the value or the tone. And now I'm trying to find certain type of texture that would help me with all this fabric and some other things that I might find interesting, and I could experiment with it. All right, guys, I guess this is almost it. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to give me thumbs up if you want to. Feel free to post a comment down below, and I hope you enjoyed the video. And again, don't forget to download my tutorial on Gumroad or on QBrush or on the artclasses.com. Until then, have a great day. Bye-bye.